Hello everyone, welcome to Android Study Jam session 2. In today's session, we will be covering the dice rolling app from unit 2 of track 1. Before we begin, I would like to just remind all of you that completing track 1 is not mandatory, but if you complete the track 2, you will be receiving the certificate regardless of whether you completed the track 1 or not. To begin with this session, we will be creating the dice rolling app. You'll also find the links to all the required resources down in the description below or perhaps in the chat box. So let's get started. So as you can see, we will be creating a dice rolling app. So in order to roll the dice, let's just create a button first that will be rolling our dice. So what I will be doing is I'm going to add a button to the UI layout. So to do that, then go to the palette and select one of the buttons, and you can just drag and drop it. Yeah. Okay. We'll also have to add constraints to it. So we'll just add the constraint as it is going to be below the text box. So to do that, I just use this blue button. And we'll also add a constraint as it is going to be to the right of the left screen. So I'll just have it in the middle. So you can see the constraint end to the end of parent and start to the start of parent. It already has an ID, so we don't actually need to edit it right now. We can also add some margin to the top of it. To do that, we can just say margin top, and let's say 10 density independent pixels. So now that this is done, let's just move ahead to coding the logic for generating dice rolls. So as we know, there are 6 sides to a cube, so we will be generating a random number between 1 and 6. So what we are going to do is that let's just get the elements that we created first. Let's get the references to them. So to do that, I'll first create a roll button variable, which is going to be of type button, and the ID was, I guess, button only. So we are going to get the resource ID button. So what this will do is that the variable roll button is going to hold the reference to this button that we created right now. Let's also get the reference to the text view since we are going to display which dice was rolled in the text view. To do that, let's just say let's say dice roll, I guess. Okay, so now that we have these two references, let's set an on-click listener on the button so that when the button is clicked, we can execute a block of code which is going to be our logic to display what dice was rolled. So to do that, what we are going to do is roll button, and we are going to set an on-click listener on it. Here what we are going to do is generate a logic. So let's say let's call this a variable let's say number for now. and what we are going to do is use the range operator between 1 and 6 and generate a random number between it. Okay, so after this what we are going to do is use the dice roll that we had created, and we are just going to change the inner text of it. So yeah, so we'll typecast it to a string and store the number into the text value of the variable of text view. So now if we run this simple app, let's see what happens. Right? Yeah. So I'm going to run this app again. It will take some time. Okay, so now we have our app running, and if I click the button, it should display randomly generated numbers between 1 and 6, which is essentially our dice roll. So this was pretty easy, and now what we are going to do is add a couple of images to this, make it look nice, so that we have a nice looking app for rolling a dice. We can also have a toast message shown here at the bottom when the button is clicked. So to do that, what we can do is create a toast. So I'm gonna say, let's say toast, and let's say dice is rolled, or dice rolled, and we are going to have it display for a short period of time. Okay, sorry. Yeah. And we can show this toast when the button is clicked. So to do that we are going to use the show method. Okay, so we can now display toast message. So let's rerun this app. Okay, let's restart the app actually. Yeah, so every time we roll the dice, we get this small toast message saying dice is rolled. So now let's just edit the default text that we had set up for the text view and the button. So I'll just say roll dice, and here I'm going to say roll button or roll wheel. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we can also add image with different images here, which would be displayed when the button is clicked. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to import the images that represent the dice roll. So you'll find the link to the in the description or in the chat box to the zip file that has all these images. So I already have downloaded the zip file, so I'll just import them now. So what we are going to do is we are going to go to the resource manager, and we are going to import drawables. They're already in my home folder, so I'll just import them. Yeah. So they should be present in our drawable folder, so I'll just import them. So we have these images now. So to access this, we are going to use the resource dot drawable dot the image name. So what I'm first now going to do is I'm going to remove this text view and replace it with an image view, so that every time the roll me button is clicked, different image is going to show up here. So first I'll just delete the text view, and now I'll add the image view. Uh, we can also add the constraints to it. Uh, yeah. Okay. So now all we have to do is instead of writing the logic for text view, now we will be writing the logic for image view, where we will be changing the images. Okay, so let's do that. So now let's change the code for it. So as you can see, we are first referencing the text view that we had uh, written earlier. So let's just change it to image view, and there should be image view as well. And since we are already generating a random number between 1 and 6, we can use a when statement here. So we can now just change the image resource for it. Yeah. So what this will do is when the random number that was generated is 1, it will set the image resource to image of the dice 1. So we have to do this for all the dice rolls, so 1 to 6. Sorry. Okay, so what this will do is when the whatever random number is generated, it will display the image of that number. So now we can just try to run this app. So let's see. It will take some time to build. Okay, so now the build is successful. We can check it out. So every time I click the roll button, a random dice is rolled, and you can see the changed image here. So this was basically the dice rolling app that you can find in Unit 1 while completing the track 1 of Android Study Jam. So hope you like this tutorial. So for the next tutorial, what we are going to look at is we are going to see how to accept input from the user. So for example, I'm going to create two input fields where user can input two numbers, and we can see how to calculate the GCD of these two numbers and display the result. So what I'll do right now is delete this image view here, and we will be using two text fields, and we already have a button, so we'll need another text field to display the result. So right now I'll just delete this image view, and I'll just create an edit text field. We're going to set the width as same as that of the parent. Uh, let's give the ID as let's say num1, and we can have an hint. So let's say enter first number, and similarly we can have another text field for the number 2. Let's call this num2, and let's add the constraints for it. So the num2 will be actually should be to the bottom of num2. Yeah, so let's add the constraints for the button as well. So I'll just do that manually actually. Okay, let's add another text view. Yeah, we can increase the font size. Let's say 25 USP. Let's keep the font size same for all the text fields. Same here. Okay, so now we have two text fields and one button. So what we'll do is we'll also set the input type for both of these text fields. We'll keep it as number decimal so that only numbers can be entered here. So yeah, so now only numbers could be entered here. So now we have to write the logic for accepting these two numbers and displaying the GCD. Okay, so let's do that. Let me just change the default text. Let's say GCD. Okay, great. So let's change the logic. I'll also change the ID for this result text view. So I'll just call it result for now. And okay, so I guess more or less we are set, and we'll start writing the logic for this uh, GCD program. So what I'll do is just create a reference to all the input text fields. So I'm going to say I'm going to get the reference to the text view, which is similarly for the second reference. I'll also get the reference to the result text view. So and now let's set the on-click listener for the button. So what I'm and what we are going to do is we are simply going to calculate the result for the GCD. So right now I'll just first get the values that are present in the number 1 and number 2 text fields. So similarly for the second number, okay, so now that we have these two integers a and b, we just have to calculate the GCD of these two numbers. So to do that, I'm just going to create a method. I'm going to call it, say, GCD, and it's going to return an integer. So let's write a simple logic for it. We are going to return a here, and otherwise we are going to return GCD of b and a mod b. So this should return us the GCD. And now let's just change the text of the result text view. So to do that, I'm just going to change the text. So let's say GCD equal to so yeah, this should work, and let's check out the layout. This should not be role me, actually we should change it to calculate GCD. So now let's try to run this. Yeah. So yeah, so this works. So for the GCD of 56 and 42 is 14. If I change this to, let's say, 96, it gives us 8. Let's see, 20 and 5. So 5, yeah, that's correct. So this was it about taking input from the user and calculating something about it. So this was the Android Study Jam session 2. Hope you all like this tutorial, and don't forget to join us in the next session. Until then, thank you and goodbye.